guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. So we start from there where we left yesterday. Okay, we have completed till there where we learned how to create an object and how the state of an object looks like, and we learned how to access any variable, means any values of the variables of an object. So from what we are going to learn today is that how to store the objects created by us in a list. So it's too simple. It is like just storing our integers or whatever we want to append in the list. It is same as that. So just create a ll list. I say name of the list, and I want to append. Here I have created some objects of student class, that is student1, student2, student3, student4, student5, something like this, and I want to append all these objects in that list. So what I'm going to do is just simple. Write list append is to one, same as I just copy it and just change the name of the object. Append is to 2 and I append is to 3, append is to 4, yeah, 4, and I have created 5 objects. Yeah, just as I run that cell and I try to check what is the length of our ll list. So when I check the length of ll list, then it returns 5. Why? Because I have appended all the objects I have created of student class into our ll list, that is in our list. So now how the our ll list is looks like. So I just pause my video and draw here, then I will show you. So our ll list is something look like this. Here, what is an ll list? Ll list contains the objects of student class. Objects of student class. As I appended student1 at index 0, at student2 at index 1, and same as other students are appended at corresponding list, corresponding indexes. So if I want to the object student3, then how will I access? As we access the list variables, list variables. If I try to access, here the student3 at index 2, then if I try to access the value stored at index 2 in ll list, then what it returns? See, it returns an instance of what? Student class with corresponding memory block, means memory address. So and now how access the value stored inside this object? As we learned in previous video, if I want to calculate, or if I want any variable, if I want to find out what is the name of student 3, then how I access student 3 dot student name? What is it name? Yeah, student name. So student name, and what it will returns? It will give us the name of student 3. It's Sivan, and you can see here student 3 have name Sivan. So in same way, it is an object. List ll list of 2 represents the object student 3, and if I try to find out what is its means its name, then how I can calculate find out? It's just by saying student name. So it will return the same value as we see here. So why? Because the values present at each index is not any data type. It's an object of some class. Yeah, and what is there that class? It is student class. So till now we studied and we learned how to store the objects in a list. Now we will move further and learn complete our next task. What our next task. We will define a class department with some attributes, department and department name and a list of students. So I just have to create another class with the name department, and I have to define the constructor method, and that constructor method will take will take two arguments, that is department name. First I have to pass self and department name corresponding list of student. Okay, I just say list of student. Okay, yeah, that's good. And now simply we create the instance variables by department name and initialize to with first attribute department name and self dot stud list. I say stud list and initialize to list of yeah, student. Okay, that's good. Now if we move further, we can see here have to define a method to calculate the average cost of lab of particular student. So this method takes two arguments. One is project ID and rate and returns the object of student class. We will discuss it further later. First, make an object and I say that object is depart. Okay, just for sake of convenience we say depart, and I have to make an object of department, and while making the object of department I have to pass department name. I say CSC, and I have to pass the list of student. So here LL list, I pass simply LL list. LL list is the student list of CSC department. So LL list I simply pass. And now we have to think how actually department object looks like now. So I just make some changes here, and we are able to see, sorry, just delete it and add a I just need to big it. Yeah, so our object state is something look like this. It is an object with instance variable depart name, which is CSC, and student list contains the list of objects of student class. Okay, I hope you understood that. Now think, if I want to access just the value stored at student list, means I want to access the object stored at index 1, and I want to know what are the course list they have. So what I will do, I can access it by saying depart, and depart have an instance variable student list, and I want the object stored at index 1. So student list is a list of objects of student class. So I can access by saying 1. What it will return? Think, we studied here, if I try to print a list of 2, it returns an instance of object class. And if I try to access in such a way that it isn't it that it will return the same thing. Let's try. So yeah, it returned the same thing. It means saying it means list of 2, or if I try to access in that way, it returns the same thing. So now I want the course list of that object. So what I will write, I will simply write course list. So it will return the course list of object which is stored at index 1. I hope you understood this. Now I have to move further, and now we will define a method which calculate the average cost of lab of a particular student. average cost of lab of a particular student. And to calculate this, we want the student ID of that student and also the rate of lab per hour. Okay, so I am going to define a method called as def and say average cost lab of lab, and it takes two argument. First is stud id. I just say id, and what is the next attribute? It's rate per hour. I say rate per hour. Okay, and what it will return? First we have to check, is there any student with that id in our student list? So how will I check? I simply iterate over our student list. So I say for stud in stud list, and I will check if stud dot student id, is it same student id? Yeah, student id. So I have to write student id equal id. For comparing id, what I'm going to do, I'm going I want to calculate first the average, means cost, lab cost of that student, and then we calculate the average cost, and we assign that average cost to the lab cost of that student. Okay, so how I can access that method? By simply writing stud is an object, as we know here, and stud dot name of the method. And what is the name of the method? Is call lab cost, means calculate lab cost. And what I have to pass here? I just need to pass rph, means rate per hour. And now I will assign it to, by saying simple lab cost, and I need to calculate the average cost. How will I calculate average cost? Average cost is the lab cost divided by the length of our student list. Okay, so average cost is the lab cost divided by length of student list. Okay, and now I need to assign the average cost to, means average cost as the lab cost for that student. So how will I assign? I assign simply by saying stud dot lab cost, means lab cost for the student. It's lab cost, lab not understood score cost. Yeah, lab cost for that student is our average cost. Okay, and now I need to return the object of, means that student. Okay, as per of specification, return the object of the student class. So stud is an object of student class, so I need to return it. And think, for a corner case, if I pass the id which is not student id, which is not in our student list, so it, for that case, it returns simply return none. Okay, so to explore our code, I just simply do some test, and I simply try to calculate. I try to just call the method average cost lab of department class, and I need to pass id. I need to calculate the average, means lab cost for student 2 and student with id 2, and the rate of lab is 2. I just, not 2, it's 3. Okay, and as we know 2 exists in our student list, so it returns what? The object of that student, object of student class. So I just store it and make a reference to that object as is2. And now if I try to find out what is the name of is2, means the object returned by this class, means object returned by our method. So I simply check by saying stu.student name. Yeah, it's Deepak. Deepak, I calculated the lab cost for Deepak. And now I will check for a corner case. Okay, I simply call for something any average cost for any -1 ID. I don't know who is -1, and its lab cost is 3.5. No, oh sorry, it didn't print anything. Don't worry. I try to print. Yeah, it prints none. Means the average cost, as we know, the -1 is not in the any student. Means we know that there is no student with -1 ID. So for this, it returns none. And as we see here, so I hope you got the basic idea how these types of programs will be written. And what we need to think is that the list contains the objects of student class, because that is the major confusion in students mind. They think that it contains, means list contains the list of values, but it contains the not the list of values, it contains the object of student class. That is the major confusion of most of the student. Let me show a conversation, just like I have a conversation few days ago with with one of my mates, and I just asked, if I say the list contains the objects of some class, then what will we think how the list look like? Okay, then his answer is something like this. I will show you. He's just messaged me that that list contains the list of values of that object, but it is not like this. So just remember that type of list contains the object like this, and to access the values stored in these objects, you need to first access this object, and then by using dot operator you can access its other values. So remember this thing, and I hope all the doubts related to these type of questions will be covered by me. If you like the video, then please like and make sure that these videos will help your other mates too to clear your exams. So that's done by for today. So Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.